Ukrainian armed forces violated temporary Easter truce announced by Russian President Vladimir Putin and accepted by the leader of Kiev, Volodymyr Zelensky. Israel continues their non-stop attacks across Gaza, killing at least 189 people during the past days. And Christians around the world celebrate Easter Sunday with a call for peace and unity. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We begin with the information. Ukrainian armed forces have violated the temporary Easter truce announced by Russian President Vladimir Putin and also accepted by the leader of Kiev, Volodymyr Zelensky. The special ambassador of the Russian Foreign Ministry, Rodion Mironchnik, announced that the Ukrainian army shelled the suburbs of the locality of Kremenaya in the People's Republic of Lugansk. According to the senior official, reports of violations of the Easter truce by the Kiev fighters continue to come in. The ceasefire has been in force since 6 p.m. on April 19th and will last until April 21st. The president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, declared that the truce would demonstrate Kiev's true willingness to comply with the agreements. And the governments of Russia and Ukraine have exchanged 246 prisoners of each army following the mediation of United Arab Emirates. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that 246 soldiers were returned to Moscow, and the exact same number of Ukrainian prisoners of war were released by the Russian army. The exchange included 31 wounded Ukrainian prisoners for 15 Russian soldiers requiring urgent medical attention. This exchange is the biggest one at the moment since the conflict began 3 years ago. In other news, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met with U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff in Italy in a new round of negotiations on the Iranian nuclear program. The second round of indirect negotiations, this time held at the Omani embassy in Rome, involved 4 hours of dialogue mediated by the Omani foreign minister. After the meeting, Araghchi confirmed that the process had entered a new phase as the delegations managed to bring positions closer together on the basis of a future agreement. Both sides agreed that as of Wednesday, April 23rd, technical teams would begin to design the concrete framework of a possible pact. During 3 days of work in Oman, nuclear and economic experts will address the complex operational details to be defined.
It was a good meeting, and I can say that the negotiations are moving forward. This time we managed to reach a better understanding on a series of principles and goals. The negotiations needed to continue and enter the next phase before the expert meetings could begin.
Technical discussions at the expert level will begin in Oman on Wednesday of this week. The experts will have more time to go into the details, to design a framework for an agreement. And then we will meet again in Oman next Saturday to review the results of the experts' work, to see how close we are to reaching an agreement.
And in Italy, political parties filed a complaint against the right-wing party of Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini, Lega Nord or Northern League, for promoting racism, Islamophobia and xenophobia in the country. The Democrat Party, in alliance with the Green Party and other left-wing parties, filed the complaint before the Italian Communications Regulatory Authority. They accused the Northern League Party of disseminating false images that represent hate speech. The content generated controversy in different spaces, and the accusing parties highlighted that the artificial intelligence-generated content was aimed at fostering concern about migration. In other news, in the United Kingdom, trans rights groups and activists protested in London's Parliament Square against the court ruling that denies legal recognition of gender identity. The verdict issued by the High Court of Justice is related to a case brought by conservative groups that seeks to limit the access of trans women to spaces reserved for women, biological women, arguing that they should only include those who were born female. The LGBTQ+ community denounced the decision of the British court, stating it constitutes a step backwards in human rights and reinforces discrimination towards the gender-diverse community. The demonstrators also informed that they will present the case to international bodies such as the European Court of Human Rights and called for future mobilizations. Now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. We continue with more information. Israeli forces have killed at least 189 people after attacks on several areas of the Gaza Strip during the past days. Health authorities reported that the Tel Aviv regime continues its aggression against the Gaza Strip, with bombings and ground attacks also causing hundreds of wounded and great destruction. The number of victims is also expected to increase due to the lack of current access to those who remain trapped under the rubble. The total number of people killed by the Zionist army so far exceeds 51,100, while more than 116,724 at least are estimated to have been wounded. The United Nations reported that more than 90,000 displaced people are sheltered in at least 115,000 reception centers that are in the Gaza Strip. The United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees warns that the humanitarian situation in Gaza is getting worse by the day and estimates that close to 420,000 people have been recently displaced since the collapse of the ceasefire on March 18th. Humanitarian services are urging the International Court of Justice for an immediate ceasefire to alleviate the humanitarian situation in Gaza. An Israeli foreign minister warned France that the decision to recognize Palestine at the United Nations summit in June could unleash retaliation from Tel Aviv. Israel's foreign minister Gideon Sa'ar warned that France would lose regional influence and added that they will not create a Palestinian state with an illusionary decision. Among other things, he reiterated that the measure could provoke retaliation from the Zionist state, and the Israeli minister accused Palestinian citizens of acting on the international scene to isolate and harm Israel instead of bringing peace. Currently, Israel maintains a blockade on the Gaza Strip that prevents the arrival of food and medical supplies, and according to humanitarian organizations, the Gaza Strip has been turned into a cemetery for Palestinians. In Yemen, U.S. military launched a series of airstrikes in the capital Sana'a and the coastal city of Hodeidah less than 2 days after another U.S. strike destroyed a Red Sea port and killed over 80 people. The U.S. Military Central Command, which oversees its military operations in the Middle East, continues to conduct airstrikes against the Houthis. Thursday's strike hit the port of Ras Isa and became the deadliest strike in the ongoing bombing campaign, according to the health ministry. The strikes on Hodeidah are part of a months-long U.S. aggression, which President Donald Trump's administration said was prompted by attacks on shipping in the Red Sea. And in Palestine, in Jerusalem, Christians took part in the Easter Eucharist in spite of the constant Israeli siege. This Sunday Mass was officiated by Archivist Pietra Batista Passavala at the Holy Sepulchre Church, the place where, according to history, Jesus was buried. During the Eucharist, the priest underscored the fact that the empty tomb of Christ gives hope and confirmation to the Palestinian people that they will see justice made and that the promise of peace will be fulfilled. In his homily, Archivist Passavala also reiterated that the Church's concern for the destruction and the grave humanitarian situation that Gaza is currently facing.
Dear brothers and sisters, may the Lord give you peace and happy Easter. The empty tomb of Christ is a sign of proof and a proof to us that we will see justice, that hope will be fulfilled, that peace will be confirmed. We have no illusions. We know what is happening among us and in the world, and we do not have much hope in the ability of those in power to find solutions, which unfortunately seem to be ever more distant. And we cannot but express our concern about a possible further deterioration, especially in Gaza.
And meanwhile, Pope Francis, still convalescing from a respiratory infection, appeared on the balcony of the central loggia of St. Peter's Basilica for the Urbi et Orbi blessing following Easter Sunday Mass. The Argentine pontiff, who remained seated on a wheelchair, wished for a happy Easter and asked the Master of Ceremonies, Diego Ravelli, to read the Easter message to the 35,000 people present there. The message called for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and the release of hostages and of aid to those who are hungry but hoping for a peaceful future. Although it did not explicitly mention the Israeli aggression in Gaza, in the message, Pope Francis criticized the attacks on hospitals and against humanitarian workers. He also asked for prayers for the Christian communities in Lebanon and Syria, and for Yemen, which is experiencing one of the world's worst protracted humanitarian crises due to the war. And also in Turkey, the faithful gathered at the Orthodox Church in Istanbul to celebrate Easter Sunday. Thousands of people came to the chapel to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. The ceremony was officiated simultaneously to other similar ceremonies in Greece and Finland, marking the end of the Holy Week. The World Council of Churches is working towards religious unity and cooperation for a common Easter. In Venezuela, devotees celebrated Easter Sunday with the traditional blessing of the sea ceremony held at Puerto Cabello seawall in the state of Carabobo. The religious service was officiated by the town's archbishop. The mass included prayers accompanied by songs as they walked along the sea. The blessing of the sea is done to celebrate the return to life of Jesus and to bless the coastal waters, the fishermen, and the workers on the beach. The faithful take advantage of the occasion to sanctify themselves by receiving holy water in the palm of their hands, while others throw themselves into the sea to purify themselves. We have a second short break coming up, but before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. We continue with more information. The U.S. government filed an appeal before the Supreme Court asking it to lift the temporary emergency blockade, issuing a prohibition of the deportation of Venezuelan migrants to El Salvador. The appeal asks that deportation flights be allowed to resume and that the lower courts be allowed to resolve the case. The U.S. Supreme Court suspended the deportation of Venezuelans after lawyers said that they were at imminent risk of being deported. President Donald Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act to justify the deportation of Venezuelan migrants, accusing them of allegedly being part of the Tren de Aragua gang. However, a recent assessment by the U.S. intelligence agencies concluded that there was no coordination between the former criminal organization and the Venezuelan government. Also in the United States, citizens protested against the policies implemented by President Donald Trump, which are considered harmful to democracy and human rights. At least 1,200 mobilizations were registered in the country, of which more than 80 took place in governmental institutions under the slogan "Hands Off." Demonstrators expressed concern for the massive deportations of migrants without due process, the dismantling of federal agencies, and threat of recession due to the tariff war waged by Donald Trump against the whole world. They also rejected billionaire Elon Musk's advice to Trump, which has caused thousands of layoffs and has affected multiple sectors of the country.
This is my fourth protest, and typically I would sit back and wait for the next election, and we cannot do that right now. We've lost too much already. We can't afford to do that. We're doing this for civil rights, human rights, the protection of all of the agencies that protect people's laborers and finances, so many things. The people that have been whisked away to foreign nations in terrible prisons, and un-American things are happening. It is not okay, it is not normal. So that's what keeps me here.
I thought it was important to be here because so many people are really unaware of what is actually happening. And a group of people who have been driving by here on vacation, people who are driving by here anyway, it makes them at least see it and makes them maybe go back and look it up and question it and see what is really happening with our government and the rights that are being taken. And I'm a federal government employee, that's all I will say, but I'm about to lose my job. And I'm a needed employee, and I like my job, but it is going to go away. So I think it's important to just get out here and maybe make people think and be around like-minded people.
In the Dominican Republic, the government implemented 15 measures against migration under the pretext of addressing the irregular transit of Haitians. Among the initiatives is that the hospitals that attend Haitian foreigners will ask their patients for a series of documents, which, if not presented, will result in their deportation after receiving medical attention. New actions contemplate the militarization of the border and the obligation to deny basic services to the undocumented and the increase of massive deportations. Thus, more than 500,000 Haitians residing in the Dominican Republic are facing new xenophobic and precarious policies by authorities in Santo Domingo. And in Cuba, the 19th edition of the Jivara International Film Festival concluded with more than 500 audiovisuals at its awards ceremony. The event presented more than 30 films in competition and 500 works from different countries, providing opportunities for young Cubans and talents from different parts of the world to showcase their cinematographic works. The celebration of the festival was also marked by the presentation of artistic exhibitions and theater plays, as well as film parties and workshops for young people. In this sense, the international festival took place in the east of the country with the objective of giving more visibility to low-budget cinematographic materials. And the Victor Sandoval House of Culture in Mexico will be the venue for the award ceremony of the National Encounter of Young Art. This event, now in its 45th edition, has evolved over the years to include various artistic disciplines, consolidating itself as a fundamental platform to showcase young talent in the country. The event, organized by the Secretary of Culture of the Government of Mexico and the National Institute of Fine Arts and Literature, will be held on April 20th, where an exhibition of 39 selected works will also be inaugurated with the purpose of promoting dialogue between creators and the public, highlighting its commitment to support the new generations of Mexican and foreign visual artists. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belen de los Santos. Thank you for watching.